Right, welcome to episode 13, 2023 on the same landing page. And I'm joined this episode by Jamar Jones, owner of Foureva Media. Foureva Media is a branding and media agency which connects companies to diverse communities to help with recruitment, company culture, and amplifying brands. Now, I've got a lot of introduction that I'm going to get through here. He's a national speaker, talks on how to connect with diverse communities with style. He's an author of the book, Change Your Circle, Change Your Life. He's also booked out an arena as a small business owner. It's the first African-American small business owner to do so. And he was a hip hop artist for 11 years, performing to thousands, and booked alongside major artists like T.I., Snoop Dogg, Common, Bone Thugs and Harmony, and many more in the Midwest and East Coast regions. Has worked with VaynerX, Versity, and BMW, amongst many more. Welcome to the podcast, Jamar.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That was actually pretty good. That was a good intro.
Cool, thank you.
Pretty good.
And of course, we're joined by my co-host, Astra. Welcome.
Hello,
again.
hello. Quite an interesting. We're not going to run out of things to talk about with you, Jamar.
Yeah, my background's kind of crazy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of stuff there. Like we're on this podcast are going to focus on probably the most boring parts of it. Like we're not going to talk about any of the hip hop, any of the music, but
that's all good.
What we're trying to focus on, is, particularly in the new year, is how nonprofits and charities are doing things and changing the world, and sharing their mission and raising funds to do so. And we asked you on particularly, Jamar, because we wanted to see what the perspective is like from America, and also this is quite a big part of what you guys do. There's an example with the Versity. I hope I'm saying it right. Versity.
Yeah, Versity. Yeah.
Versity. In particular. Can you tell me about what you guys do when it comes to helping charities and nonprofits, and then maybe allude to the work you've done with the Versity case study?
Yeah, for sure. So we work with nonprofits in different stages of their of where they're at. So one stage is, particularly with a little bit of smaller nonprofits, when you get going, you get you get all guns blazing on your mission, and oftentimes you haven't really got the foundational things set yet. So if that is foundational branding, your mission, values, putting that together all in a brand deck so everybody knows how to interact with your brand, internally and externally. Also, a sponsorship kit is also a must-have. There's so many nonprofits that are operating today that don't have a sponsorship kit or a way to say, hey, how do I interact? How do I donate? What does that look like for me? They just constantly keeps telling their story over and over again. So they need some kind of material to help with that. So a lot of times we help with a lot of foundational branding within that. Oh, then there's another stage where if a nonprofit is a little bit further along, or they're just focused on a certain initiative, we help with amplifying their brand. So if that's within a campaign or promotion, to help with fundraising, different unique fundraising ideas, and also in tandem we help build brand at the same time. And then also if there's a need where a nonprofit needs to kind of get connected with different and diverse communities, we are able to kind of tap into our networks and our strategies to be able to do so. So for instance, like with Versity, they're a bigger nonprofit, but they had an issue with getting into diverse communities when it came to diverse blood donation. So we put together our brains to be able to give them some strategies and some techniques, which we call branded entertainment. That's actually the kind of the name of the marketing style that we do. And really branded entertainment means that it's a non-traditional way of marketing. So traditional is advertising. You kind of pop up in front of whatever somebody's doing, and you just get in front of their day and they have to see your brand, and you're like, come on, man, I don't want to see this. And you press skip and you just move on. So branded entertainment is more about like that feeling that you get when you're watching your favorite TV show or a movie, or you went to a concert. You want to be there and you want to engage with the brand. You want to interact with the brand that is right there in front of you, and you're glued. I mean, you're glued to every word. You're really soaked into it. So that is branded entertainment, as we use entertainment as a form of marketing.
Awesome. So what did you do for them and with them? What kind of branded entertainment did they then release, and what did it look like? Am I picturing something that has a bit of a storyline to it, and some kind of drama involved, or is that not it?
So first, I kidnapped the CEO. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Isn't that some drama for you? No.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. So what we did for them is we created. Well, first we put together an entire strategy as far as for the mission, and we created a podcast. So we recommend that they put together a podcast. But not only just put together a podcast, but how do you actually distribute it? How do you get it out there into the market? And then how do you brand it correctly? A lot of people start a podcast and then, it's bare bones. They're doing just what they can. Versity really wanted to make sure that their brand was represented in the right way. It looked a little different. It felt a little different. So this podcast actually had some kind of entertainment elements around it. And then we also source all the guests. So the guests that they were getting on their podcast were different than kind of their traditional, doctors and other people within the medical field getting on their podcast, because they had done that a little bit before, but not in the way of like an entertainment podcast. That was more like just purely educational. So this was more of like, hey, let's grab some different people, different stories, different attachments to blood donation and to sickle cell disease, where people can tell their story or tell how what they're doing impacts the community. And also we kind of targeted the guests to also represent what the podcast stands for. So it's stand out from the inside podcast. And so we wanted people that kind of came from a diverse background, from typical what they typically kind of were doing. And then we took the main episode of that and put it into tons of different snackable size clips, as far as from the content perspective, and then spread that across all channels. So every single season we're pumping out well over 70 plus pieces of content
Wow.
that is getting pushed throughout all channels. And so from very like shorts, so reels, YouTube shorts, and Instagram, but also going down to kind of what I call your pillar or your foundational content from your YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And then of course you have like the full piece on YouTube, and we put that out there. And then also they have their microsite. So if anybody is curious about the podcast, they land on their microsite to learn more about the podcast, but also what are the call to actions? Well, the call to actions are start a blood drive, donate, get involved. And so we can track those metrics as well through there. And so through the podcast, we really found that they were getting a little bit more attention and more interest than normal when it came down to their diversity initiatives. So that's like just a snapshot of what we've done, but we've also now moved over to an overarching strategy as well, where we're tapping into strategic partnerships, how to use esports to connect with people, how to use like kind of micro events as well. So instead of like big companies kind of think of just we got to throw this huge gala every single time, it's because that's what it's got to be, and spend a ton of money. You could do some micro events just with the community and help impact and help influence with inside the community. So we're getting into some bigger activations now, which is pretty exciting.
That's awesome, man. So if I'm a charity, if I work for a charity or a nonprofit of small, medium, or large size, I might think that I don't know if I can do a podcast, right? Like, I don't know if I can, maybe I'm really good in terms of, I know my mission, I know what I'm trying to get to happen, but does it require a certain type of person to be able to do that brand entertainment? How much does it, can you meet them like halfway and do you help them with the ideas? Because the first challenge, I guess, for them is they're like, well, what does that mean? I'm not trained for this. Like, I haven't been like media trained, and I don't know how to like create all of this entertainment and excitement around it. Even though I know how passionate I am, it doesn't mean it will come across as entertaining. How do you help them with that?
Yeah. So we help them through that whole process. So first, like, I started off, that's where the strategy kind of comes into place. First, we determine who is the right guest. I mean, who's the right host for the podcast, because typically it's going to be somebody in the organization. Of course, we've kind of teetered with the idea of having somebody from our team also be a host, but we're not the most knowledgeable about the day-to-day ins and outs of the company. They can kind of talk about their stories, talk about timely things, and we would just be glossing over what we know. So we would identify a host, and typically it's somebody that just is outgoing, loves to kind of talk, loves to be kind of an ambassador of what they're doing. And then we can work with them from there. We kind of teach them how to ask the questions, how to interact, how to put their guard down. And look, so we have a client that is the CTO of a tech organization. And if anybody knows anything about the technology world, sometimes they are a little bit less outgoing. The brain is more into the technical specs, the details, analytics, the numbers. That's how their brain works. So when you put them on a podcast, some of them just freeze. So we have a client where he's a CTO there. And at first he was very timid. I mean, just like kind of sitting there, asking his questions, getting through. Man, by time it's now episode 30, he is laughing, he's having a great time, he's asking questions, personalities just came out. I mean, it's fantastic. So people can kind of evolve through the role of being a host. And as far as getting started with the podcast, yeah, we go from the idea of the name, or what are they going to be talking about, what are the points that they want to hit for their podcast, what does it look like, what do we want people to feel. So we go through the entire strategy and the kind of the establishment phase of the podcast.
When you're making these podcasts, Jamar, how does your like strategy differ for charities versus like traditional businesses, or does it? Is it the same?
It doesn't really differ. No, it doesn't really differ. Each one of them is like creating a show, and no matter what your show's about, you got to go through your foundational kind of questions, to kind of create that show. And that's the way we look at it. A podcast is a show. What the most powerful thing about having a podcast is that you have leverage and you have a platform. Mm-hmm. That is the most powerful thing. If you think about even marketing at its core, what do we try to do? We try to get on other people's platform to share our story, from a press release, or to getting on an article, to go into an event, to paying a lot of money, getting our booth at a trade show. I mean, we're trying to use somebody else's platform to tell our story, getting on TV, getting on radio. This is all the same stuff. But the cool thing is when you have a podcast, you actually, you're in control for the first time. You're in control of the show, and you got something that people want to be involved in. And podcasting is still relatively new as far as the creation and getting that content out there, where it's in a space where you don't necessarily have to have everything buttoned up. You could just start a podcast and people will join, people will follow and be like, yeah, I'll be on your podcast. Why not? And you'd be shocked of the type of people you could get on a podcast. It's phenomenal, and it won't be like that forever, but I think we're a long ways away from that changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it comes to nonprofits in particular, how do you show like a return on investment of that podcast? Because as particularly charities and nonprofits are, every penny is like ring fenced for something, or it's from a donor and has to be spent on a specific cause. Firstly, how do you prove the ROI? And secondly, what's your sell? How do you make them think, okay, a podcast, it doesn't seem like a traditional way of marketing, but it could be really, really good for helping boost your mission? Two-part question.
Yeah, that is those two questions are deep. So the first one is, we make sure that everything is tracked and everything is measured. Well, two things you're trying to build with the podcast. One is you got your hard metrics. So you got your click-throughs, you got your website visits, you got your views as far as from the content being posted, you got your engagement. You also got the guests. So the guests, when they come onto the podcast, after it's released, we then package up that content and give it to the guest. So this is sometimes a misstep from a lot of people that have a podcast. You give that content, just a little bit of snippets of it, couple graphics, so they post it to their audience. So we also kind of measure, if they've posted it, what does that look like with the activity from that post as well. And then ultimately, there's some kind of like metrics of sales, so for a nonprofit, it's really about, hey, are they starting a blood drive? Are they, becoming a donor? Are they getting activated in some way? If it's a traditional kind of corporate organization, it might be a sale, it might be a lead, it might be a business, kind of development opportunity. And so that's how we track those kind of metrics from the website to social, and also kind of driving through email campaigns and kind of other avenues as well. And how this idea kind of comes to, there's one great sales question I love to ask. I love to ask it. So it's, okay, so let's say you're just kind of talking with somebody. Now they came to you for some reason, right? They're talking to you about it for some reason. I love to ask the question of, well, what happens if you just do nothing? What if we just do nothing? What I guess, what ideas do you have?
Yeah.
To do
Hold
it.
the silence, the awkward
yeah,
silence.
And you just have that awkward silence and you get them to start talking. And what happens is they want to do something different. They want to do something unique. They've tried all the traditional ways and they want to do something a little bit out of the box. And that's kind of how you find the people that are really serious about it and the people that are kind of like, yeah, it's maybe an idea, but I don't really believe in it. So you really got to believe in that structure of it, of the podcast. So, and then the other kind of metric point that's harder to track is brand awareness. It's the kind of that, like, hey, we have like these gut checkpoints where we say like, hey, do you feel, that this podcast is really, from a brand awareness standpoint, what are some things that have happened that haven't happened before? It's a great question to ask, because if you didn't have the podcast, and you would be like, hey, well, where would I be at? Versus you having the podcast and you're saying, hey, this happened. We had this person reach out. I can't believe that this person contacted us. Oh, we had, a press release pushed out from another company that, we had the guest on, and all of a sudden we're on this article and we had no clue that was even going to happen. So there's other brand awareness type of things that are harder to measure, but if you ask the right questions, you can kind of measure what those successes are and building that brand. And once again, once you have the show, once you have that platform, people then kind of tend to want to come to you. The more you do it, the more that you're consistent with it. So I always like to just kind of get their brain turning a little bit. Yes, the concept is newer, but it's kind of like, well, what have you tried already? And then let's go into something different. And then if all else fails, let's say the podcast is an absolute dud. Let's say that nothing works with it. What do you at least get from it? Let's see, you get no fundraising, you get no donors, you don't get any people that are interacting, or I guess directly, supporting your mission. Well, what else do you get? The views, the contents, the engagement, and the guests, and having a platform built from scratch. I think that is kind of worth it in its own. And then you kind of measure it as you stay consistent, and you look at it and say, how far along do I want to go with this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess like
Absolutely.
that content waterfall that you were talking about before,
Yeah.
they get all of that like 70 pieces of snack size
Yeah.
slots. So
Yeah. Assets,
Even as marketers, the most common path to creating content is, right, guys, we need to create some content. Okay, cool. You sit there with like a board marker and a whiteboard, or a white piece of paper, and you start brainstorming, and it all just feels very difficult because you're like, what hasn't been done before, or what has been done that we can do better, or what interesting stories have we got? And there's always confliction there, and you kind of start working on it. You get your bullet points, you start writing. It's much more work than just this. Having a conversation with someone and saying, what are you passionate about? What are your challenges?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, let's record that. Let's transcribe it. Now there's your first bones of a blog. And then, as you say, all those different other parts and snippets and segments you get out of it, as well as combining on that, the networking element it just takes all of the slog out of it, and it becomes like the beating heart and momentum, that because if you set yourself a target of how many you're going to do, there's the momentum that you've got of producing content, rather than it comes back around to the beginning of the next month and it's like, got to do 2 more blogs now, or 3 more blogs, or whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
I'm absolutely with you. This stuff is so powerful in starting actually and you're not doing it on your own as well, because so often that process is done in a room somewhere with you and your ideas, which is never as good as when you're collaborating, as we are here,
sure.
discussing stuff and critiquing things and challenging some of those ideas. And on that, what has been the biggest change and challenge in the charity third sector since you've kind of been working with it? Has there been any new things come up that are kind of that they're really struggling with, and you maybe can help them with?
Yeah, I think from the charity side, nonprofit side, the challenge is always depending on the size. So a lot of times, the nonprofit side is kind of set up a lot differently than the corporation side. So the challenge really kind of becomes not to, can we do it? It's more of like, who's going to do it? That's really the biggest challenge. Depending on how large their team is or who's doing what. A lot of nonprofits, there's so many things that have to be happening all at once. Somebody's got to be doing the grant writing, somebody has to do the fulfillment, somebody has to, be there at the door if they have kind of a brick and mortar store. So, somebody has to be working on fundraising, somebody has to be doing the operations of it, somebody has to be managing the event, somebody has to, there's like constant stream of like different people, and that's kind of the biggest struggle with doing things. And what I suggest as far as for a solution, it's not necessarily, we do help, since we do sales and marketing plans. My brain always is looking at things operationally, and a lot of nonprofits are doing way too much. If you look at kind of everything that's happening throughout the year, you got to say, what are the things that are kind of benefiting me the most? And what are the things that are just a lot of busy work that we're not getting the same kind of see through as far as for the success of it? And they have to start streamlining, and they have to start cutting things off, so that way they can focus more on the bigger things that are helping the mission and driving the fundraising sources, and or the brand awareness, or recruitment for their company, because a lot of nonprofits just get tied into every little thing that they have to do, and they get stuck and they get kind of paralyzed by that, or they just try to keep maintaining it, and it's really hard, especially if you're a smaller nonprofit. So I always suggest to streamline things, cut it off, and just and let's focus and put that time and energy into promoting the thing that's really helping you. And then once you get that stuff turning, then you can branch out to others. But that's something that I always see kind of across the board, depending on the size, but it's most nonprofits are kind of in that space.
I thought you were going to say most nonprofits are not doing enough. I was surprised when you said too much, but then I think about how they sort of throw their weight behind every kind of awareness day, where not just the ones that kind of are within their mission. And yeah, you've changed my perspective there, Jamar.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm convinced.
there's a danger to doing 20% of everything, isn't there? You just don't get
Yeah.
anything
Ooh, that's
done. But
good.
it's so hard to say no to a new way of maybe raising funds, or when there's so many things like that. I know, speaking to some people in like the third sector, that they say they'll have like maybe 1 or 2 days a month where they'll look at the marketing and then be firefighting for the rest of the month, and then they'll be like, right, who was I speaking to about that campaign, that idea? And then they'll come back to it and spend half of the time just remembering what it was that they were doing in the first place to get to that point. It's really interesting. You started with a sponsorship kit as well as something that's quite a core piece that you offer. What can you talk to me about why you've come up with that, and why that's such an important thing that you guys offer?
Yeah, because look, people are busy. I mean, people, especially in these days, like, people are super busy and they don't have the time to have like 15 meetings to talk about something. And so if you want to package up what your idea is or what your offer is, and you only have a limited amount of time, well, put your best foot forward and create something that you can pass off to somebody. So at least they can get a snapshot of what it's about. Of course, everybody has a different activation for themselves, where they say like, oh, no, this is why I'm doing this, because my aunt's, sister's cousin, is really impacted by this. And this is why I want to do this. That's different for every person, but have the brand, have exactly what your offer is, how the impact is going to really affect, the community and what they're doing, and make sure that it's tight knit and it's packaged in a way where you can send it out to anybody and they can at least understand what you have and what you have to offer and what you do. It's just so important, because there a lot of these nonprofits don't have that, and so they make it twice as much as work, for them to be able to do that. Especially, if you think about the different ways on how they're fundraising, some of it may come from corporate, organizations. Some of it may come from some foundations that want to help. Some of it might be grants. Some of it might be, kind of events, and just from the many, basically, of getting, donations through there. And, a lot of the ways on how they're getting the bigger dollar amounts is through kind of some email or a couple meeting interaction. So you got to have kind of the thing in your toolkit to say, hey, here you go, check this out. And keep it simple. Keep it simple. Don't have that deck be 50 pages long. Nobody got time for that. No one's got time for that. Just make it short and sweet, and make some of the actual like ways to get involved. Give it a 3-tier process, 3-tier, ideas of how to get people involved. And there's always a custom. But you don't have to put every single custom way that people can, donate and get involved.
Absolutely. I think there's been so many examples as we do more and more work where we are just looking at, well, the conversation is mainly focused on how we get more attention to this cause and how we can bring traffic and eyeballs and audience to this cause. But what they get when they get there is really difficult for them to know what to do. There's no donate button. There's no clear call to action. They don't know if they should be jumping on the newsletter or if they can visit, or like, it's a bit convoluted, basically. I tried to actually donate somewhere the other day, and it was a link to PayPal, the PayPal homepage. It took me to the homepage of PayPal, and I was like, wait, what is this? You have to really work around the block to kind of like to get it to work. And it's like, it seems like simple to I think, as a marketer, that seems simple, but there's so many that just miss it by like a small margin. By just making that journey easier, you're talking absolute, like, huge amounts more in funds like raised, basically. So that work is incredible. I think that's why I picked up on the fact that you've got that. It's probably one of the most common problems. Are there any other really common things that maybe charities overlook that businesses tend not to?
I mean, not business and charities. I mean, they're what they're doing is a little bit different, but they're both still running a business. I guess that's the other thing. I mean, a lot of nonprofits don't treat it like a business. They treat it like a hobby. And, you could tell that a lot of times with the smaller ones, that are just treating it like I'm just kind of getting through this instead of treating it like a business and having a plan and having like, what are you going to be doing? I think also another common mistake that it doesn't really go into fully on the marketing side. But if you want to have some of your board have participation, within what you're doing, the best way to get them involved first is by highlighting them and let them know that they care, or that they matter. I meant that they matter. So a lot of, I've seen some nonprofits kind of get, like, oh man, we got to get new board members. They think that's going to solve all their problems. Let's get the new board members. Let's get them on board and then, do stuff for us. Come on, let's go. And, just as much as you're trying to sell, the ideas and concepts to other people, you also have to do that internally for your board to get them going, because they joined the board. It could be partially for the mission, but oftentimes it's it's also to help with their even brand and kind of get them on the next, step of where they're going to go in their career. And, you have to look at it like, if you want to get some participation, the best way first is just to highlight them, and announce that and really get them involved so they feel like, oh my God, hey, they're sending out, there's a press release about me. There's an email campaign. I'm on the website. I'm on social media. This is great. I mean, they put it out there, new board member. Okay, I got to do something. Like I'm getting promoted. This is great. And just give those board members a little bit of promotion as well as, and honestly, it's going to help anyways, because somebody may say, oh, I didn't know that person was doing that. I'll donate. I'll donate to that. I didn't know that person was involved. That's one of my good friends. I'll donate, and you just never know kind of where that's going to come from. But oftentimes they're just spent so much externally. You got to look a little bit internal, especially for the board, because if you want to keep them and keep that board activity high, you got to be able to showcase them as well.
That's so important, man. There's so much of the work we do takes a long time. You can't like try a podcast or put together a marketing campaign and give it a month or two and then check if it worked. Like it's cumulative and it needs momentum. And in order for that momentum to happen, people need to be invested in it for a long time, right? So everything you've just said is so crucial to keep that interest. So no one goes after month 4, hey, what is it they're spending all this time doing? Like what is it doing? Like, is it actually giving us anything? Well, yeah, because you went viral last week, or you just got mentioned in the local press. Like no one's even going to ask that question if that's what's happening in the meantime. And making them aware of it is so important too, right? Because that's what kills a lot of this stuff. You might be making progress, but before it really got a chance to bear fruit, someone's saying, well, recession looks like it's hitting. Have we tried this? Or like just tweaking the way that you're going at the crucial point can be the difference, right, between it failing or not.
And they do say that it takes like you won't actually really start getting and I've seen it vary, but you won't really start getting real engagement until episode 20 is typically for podcasts. So think about that. And most podcasts actually end on episode 3. Most people stop doing a podcast episode 3. Because like, oh, where's the audience? Where's all those listeners? No one's listening. I posted, I'm getting no likes, getting no engagement. No one cares. I mean, but just like anything, you got to see it through. You got to be consistent with it. And depending on how you're posting each one of those episodes, if you're just posting a link out to your main social media channel and that's it, and then not promoting it any other way, well, you gave it a one shot in, a million to even land somewhere, so you got to constantly kind of be putting it out there, different ways to promote it. And most people end at episode 3. So, they don't have that stamina. You got to have the stamina to keep pushing through and stay consistent before you just before you just kill it.
Absolutely.
We find ourselves saying as a digital agency the same thing about SEO, like it's a long-term investment.
Oh my God, yeah, 100%.
Which is the segue into our next bit of this section, Jamar. So thanks for that analogy. We ask all of our podcasts these questions, and they are about traditional digital media advertising methods rather than sort of podcasting and such. But if you had to order the following marketing methods in terms of importance, where would you put them? So we've got pay-per-click, social media, organic and paid, email marketing, and search engine optimization. Which one's your most important to your least important?
Oh, that's tough because it depends on the business, but I'll just go in general. I think first and foremost, because it's free and people generally know how to do it, at least at the very bare bones way and method, would be social media, would be the most important, because it's free and it's easy.
Yeah,
just
it's
post.
a good argument.
I mean,
good argument.
Second, I would say SEO. I mean, it's just so important that make sure people can find you, and the higher you rank, I mean, you just get free leads. It's great. And then I would go to probably email marketing. Once you build up a good list and they actually are interacting and engaging, you could, depending on the business, you can literally print money if you know what you're doing. So email marketing is so powerful. It's still powerful to this day. And I think pay-per-click would be the last one. Did I miss one?
Excellent. No, you've got them. You've got them all.
Okay.
Speaking generally on Foureva Media, how confident on a scale of 1 to 10 are you in your current marketing strategy?
For ourselves?
For yourselves, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. We do it for everybody else. How is it for ourselves? I feel like for ourselves, I'm pretty confident in it. There are areas I think that you mentioned that I feel like could be a lot better. So like SEO wise, I feel like our SEO is not the greatest. Just because we're so focused on the experiential type of marketing. We get a lot of that's like one of our main channels of kind of how we're getting that awareness out. So oftentimes like that digital presence, besides social media, we're great on there. But it's not getting the same love and attention like the other areas are. So I would say I'm fairly confident, but from the outside looking in, of course, I mean, I'm always critical of myself, but from outside looking in, I mean, people interact with us, people come to us because they're like, man, I see you're everywhere. That's always what I hear. So that's got to be something good that's happening. If they come to us and they believe, they can trust us with their brand as well.
That's fair. Well, my next question was going to be, what do you think is the key to improving that score? But you kind of touched on it, just sort of the digital side of stuff.
SEO for sure. I mean, that's something, gotta focus on it.
It's one of those things though, as a digital agency focusing on SEO, it's a bit of a nightmare because most digital agencies also know how to do SEO or are selling it or know someone who can do it. So the amount of work is mental to have to do. So you can only ever really rank locally anyway for most of the stuff. It's really difficult. We've ranked locally for the ones we want to, but trying to do that on a national level, whether you're facing every other guy who's an expert at it. So it's really tough. For sure. Cool. That leads us on to segment 2, which we're calling Hook, Line, and Stinker. It's very similar to what we've done in previous episodes where we have fake facts and you sort of have 2 truths and a lie. In this case, we're going to be doing 2 truths and a lie, but with hooks for podcasts. So I'm going to read some out. I'm going to share the screen. You two are playing against each other on this one.
Okay.
And you've got to tell me which one is the stinker from these Now let me make sure I don't give the answers away as I share. So can you see my screen? And obviously I'll read it out from start. Okay, here. You guys can see my screen okay, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'll read these out for the audio listeners as well. So number one, we're starting on quite light, I think. The three hooks are why your content is being ignored, the truth about YouTube, and competition is the thief of creativity. Which one's the stinker?
Ooh. These are podcast titles, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
They're obviously made to be as clickbaity as possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
So each one wants you to listen to them because it's like, oh wow.
And one of them's fake.
One of them's fake. You got to tell me which one's fake.
Okay, Jamar, I'm going to let you guess first because I think I know which one it is because I know how Jason writes. So I want to hear your thinking first.
You got an advantage, a competitive advantage. No.
That's why I'm giving you the floor. None of them super clicky.
No,
yeah.
This one's like they get better, trust me.
Okay.
I think it's competition is the thief of creativity.
Okay.
I also think it's that one because one of Jason's favorite sayings is competition is the thief of joy. And I think he's changed
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Comparison, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Good shout, both of you. You're wrong. The stinker was why your content is being ignored. So the other two were from Anything Goes by Emma Chamberlain.
Okay.
So 0-0 so far.
So these are real titles.
Yeah,
okay.
these are all real titles. One of them's written by me.
Okay, gotcha.
Number one. So the childhood lie that's ruining all of our lives. Number two, victimhood and self-sabotage is destroying the world in 2022. And number three, how dieting shortens your life and increases weight gain.
Well, that went from light to dark real quick.
Sure did.
They're all quite clicky. The childhood lie that's ruining all of our lives. This has got to be some kind of self-help podcast or something.
Yeah.
I think victimhood and self-sabotage is destroying the world in 2022. Just because it's too long. Seems too long.
Yeah, I was actually going to go with that one too. Yeah. That thing is super long.
You're trying to critique my writing. Well, you both have 0 points still.
Oh, okay.
It's
don't say it.
How dieting shortens your life and increases weight gain was the one created by me. So this was the other two are from Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. The first one was The Childhood Lie That's Ruining All of Our Lives was Gebel Mate, and Victimhood and Self-Sabotage was Africa Book. That was the guest for that one. Okay, next. Still withdrawing at the moment. Okay, so how from winning Love Island and Strictly Come Dancing to battling imposter syndrome, number one. Number two, interviewing an exorcism expert, possessions. Is that possessions? No. Possessions? Yeah. Ouija boards, poltergeists, and more. Number three.
You won't catch me doing that.
The A to Z of the world's best things. So which of those is the stinker?
Oh my God, the last one sucks. it's horrible. I'll go with the last one. I mean, the first one is so long, but after you threw the curveball, I think that the last one, I just like, what does that even mean? It's just the alphabet of the world best things. The best things of what? What are we talking about?
I think from winning Love Island and Strictly Come Dancing, just because I don't think anyone who's won one has also won the other, but I could be wrong.
Well, you got your first point. The first one was the stinker, which
Yay.
means the A
Oh,
to Z of the
no.
world's best things is a real episode title.
Let us help you write your titles, please. That's horrible.
So that's from Jack Mate's Happy Hour podcast. Okay, we're in the final ones now. That's excuse the weird image there. That's from a templated presentation that I haven't got rid of yet. Okay, so is it number one? Is your parent a narcissist? Number two, why men are trash that you shouldn't recycle? Number three,
that is great.
how to trick him into proposing. Which one is the stinker?
Ooh.
I feel like I'm just shooting in the dark at this point.
This sounds like a female-led podcast.
Yeah.
How to trick him into proposing. It feels too off color.
Okay.
It feels too manipulative.
So you're going with that one?
Yeah, I think that one.
And Jamar?
I'm going to go with why men are trash.
Oh, that means you got that one right. So it's 1-1.
1-1.
It's from the Call Her Daddy podcast by Alex Cooper. Final one then. This is to win it.
The decider.
So the hooks are 500k new TikTok followers a week, Amber Turd and Goodfellas, number one. Penis sizes, Ferris Confederate flag, and why Cam is moving to the UK to find love, number two. And tossing the salad, octopus friends, and sex ed with your parents is number three. Which one is the stinker?
What are they talking about, man?
None of them make any sense.
What are these conversations going? Holy crap.
I feel like the TikTok one is true because both of those things were like quite big trends a while ago. And then Cam is probably someone on the podcast, so it feels like that one is true. I'm going to say the last one is false.
I was going to say the last one. Yeah, octopus friends. Like, what is that? What is that? Okay, I just feel like you made that up.
Well, it ends a draw then because they were all true. It was a trick question, the last one. So yeah,
this is horrible.
Hook, line, and stinker. I haven't got a bonus round to finish off. So you both take the.
We'll both be champions this time.
Yeah.
Right. It'd be like that clip art down the bottom.
I'll do this one.
And that brings us on to our last segment, which is strategy analogy. Do you want to run this one, Astra?
Yeah. So the concept of this is I will generate a random word in a random word generator, and then we all have to come up with some sort of marketing analogy to do with the word. So let me generate random words.
Marketing analogy.
Astra's really good at this. It requires you to think on your feet, and I've died a death when I've tried to do this in the past. So hopefully I can come back and do better.
The word is reputation, which.
So we're supposed to think of what? Explain the rules one more time.
So it's using the word reputation. Think of some sort of marketing analogy to do with reputation or how marketing is like a reputation, which I guess is kind of a straight swap, right?
Yeah. I mean, so I think of your brand as your reputation. So you're looking at constantly like your brand equity that you keep putting kind of coins out there. You say, hey, how many coins did I put into the machine for my brand reputation? And you have to kind of keep putting coins in there because otherwise people are gonna forget about your reputation, or they're gonna be like, well, I haven't heard from them in a while. That's your reputation.
Yeah,
they're not seeing you. So that would be my analogy.
I would I think that's good. I think I'd say that you get a reputation for some kind of value or exhibit is behavior that you do, right? So I've got what would be my reputation? I guess my reputation is not to look too insular, but I won't even go on to me actually. But if you've got a good reputation for being a good person, or being honest, or being on time, those three things kind of form your principles. And then from there, people may hire you for those things, and it becomes almost an articulation of the values and the things that they expect you to continually represent and abide by. So reputation is very similar to marketing and branding, because it's the things that you will consistently do regardless of everything else. That's how you're known, right? Your reputation is for you to be providing that service in that way every time. So it's a very much straight swap. Yeah, as you say, for branding, right? It's what are you known for? What does someone, when they hear your name, think, that guy, he's a good dude, and he'll get there on time. I've got more to me than that, I promise you. I don't just get there like 5 minutes before the party starts. Yeah. Like Jason in the corner, like, hey guys, what was keeping you?
I think so marketing, like reputations, can be accidental successes as well as intentional disasters. So you can like go out into the world and try and make yourself a reputation as, say, being the early guy, and then turn up late to every appointment you've ever made, which is, all your intentions are there. You're like, I want to be an early guy, but my life is just getting in the way of that. And it can end up being a disaster. Or you can end up just tweeting something, recording a TikTok, putting it out there, it goes viral, and then all of a sudden your name is made and you didn't even really try. So that's my analogy for reputation, I think.
That's interesting. I like that, just because it brings a point of something I saw the other day, where someone said that they released one of many videos and it went viral, and they said it was the worst thing that happened to them, because it was one of those throwaway things they didn't think it would blow up at all. Like, they've done some great things that just didn't nothing, and then they've put this one video out and it went everywhere, and suddenly
that's funny.
All everyone wants from them is just to do that video again, or variations of it, and they're like,
oh, it's the worst.
That's
actually that's one of my nightmares is people are like, well, why don't you just like get on these trends, and it's like, yes, I could, but it's like, do you want to be known as like like if something blows up, do you want to be known as like the sandwich guy, or the the guy that
that'll be your obituary on the news or something.
It's like some of these trends are like just stupid, like I don't want to be known as like that. I mean, that guy that blew up with the cranberry juice, like he's just on the skateboard, he's got the cranberry juice and he just drinking it. I mean, you be known as the cranberry guy for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to be known as that. And I guess you could change, but it takes a while. It's
hard, man. You got to really think twice before. As a 33-year-old man, I'm not going to be twerking while singing about SEO. I'm not. It's just it's dangerous. If that,
come on, Jason,
because that will go viral as well. That will go viral.
It will go viral, guaranteed.
That concludes segment 3. So I guess this is just a chance now. You've got a book at Change Your Circle, Change Your Life. Do you want just to talk a little bit about what that book's about and why the audience should look into it?
Yeah. I wrote this book about now a year and a half ago. Holy crap. So it's called Change Your Circle, Change Your Life. It's the how-to guide to change anyone's life. And really the book is it's really all about evaluating your current circle and then how do you get into new circles. And it's a lot of my life experiences within the book. Because I kind of looked back and said, how did I get here? And it was my ability to understand myself, from my self-awareness to who I am, what my gifts are, and then how do I get into new circles? So how do you find your way in? How do you discover that? How do you create those ideas of where do I want to go, and have a plan? And then your ability to be able to constantly change your circle. And it really is, everybody has to go through this. It doesn't matter what you're doing in your life, what you have going on. You have to master that ability to change your circle if you want to kind of succeed. And this is personal or business, by the way. This is personal or business. And like, not everybody is worth your circle, so you got to like know about the barriers and how much time are you investing in others just to be in your circle when they're not investing the time to be in yours, and you're like keeping them there for like what reason, especially with family members. I know it's harder with family members, but you're constantly going back when it's like, if they don't want to save themselves, there's only so much you can do. So that's what that book is all about. It's helped a lot of people, and I want to help, continue to get it out there in the world. And I truly believe if you read this book, it's got 50% mindset, 50% action. So like, it literally has action items at end of each chapter that you can apply to right then and there to do this. So if you read this and you actually do what's in the book, you could change your life. There's no way. There's no way possible you couldn't. There'll be some change. There'd be no way that you can't. I mean, I would be shocked. I would want to hear the story if somebody did everything in the book and nothing changed. I'd be shocked.
That's awesome, man. Well, we'll definitely link to the book in the show notes and the details, so you can check it out there. And I guess it just falls upon me to say thank you so much for joining us. It's been a great chance to reach across outside of the UK again for a podcast, which is really nice to get a different perspective. And you've got like a ton of experience there. We could go into, I mean, there's so many of that intro I didn't even get a chance to go into, but it's been really nice having you on and a joy to chat to you. So thanks, Jamar.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, really appreciate it. It was fun. This is probably one of the most fun podcasts I've been on. I love the game stuff at the end. It was really good.
Oh, good.
Absolutely going to use that as a testimonial somewhere.
Yeah.
Go ahead. That's what it's for.
All right. Perfect.